a slave to your games.
Hi everyone, it's Michelle from Michelle's Empire. Today's video is going to be on my crazy neighbor. This was about 8 to 10 years ago, so it's not that recent, but I do remember it like it was yesterday. I did take down a few notes just in case I forget anything, but this was the craziest neighbor I think I've ever had. So if you're interested in hearing this story, please keep watching. So we'll start off with my kids and I. We lived in this survey complex for 5 years. We saw just about everything there. This survey had a very bad rap, and it was for good reason. There was crack deals going down in the park right out front of my house. I seen someone get stabbed. That's for another story time. Someone got shot in the basketball court. They had a basketball court and a park all in the same survey complex for all the kids. You had to have kids basically to live there, so there was a lot of kids. It was very much like high school. There'd be parents sitting outside in groups gossiping about one another, gossiping about everybody else, watching everybody walk by and talking shit about them. It was really just not the best place to be, but it was subsidized housing. If you don't understand what that is, basically based on your income. I was a single mom, so it helped me out at the time. I had a 3-bedroom house. It was semi-detached, but at least I had a house for my kids and a backyard, but the area was just not so nice. That was the first place they could offer me where I was living before that. I was paying super high rent and barely able to afford groceries. So basically there was good and bad to the place. So let's get started about this neighbor. So we're gonna call her Jane. There was 2 actually, one on either side of me, 2 crazy ladies. We're mainly talking about Jane today, but the 2 of them hung out with each other, so they'll both be brought up in this story. Now, I would see Jane all the time. We had a fence joining our backyards together, but it was just waist high, so we could obviously see into each other's backyards. Now, she would always try to talk to me and say hi and how are you and things. And I would be friendly with her, but I was still trying to keep my distance because I just find, you know, when you make friends with your neighbors, if something goes wrong, you're stuck living there with them. She kept offering for me to come over for a barbecue. Now, this was the summertime, and I finally agreed to go over for the barbecue. So I went to the barbecue, you know, nothing out of the ordinary. She made hamburgers and hot dogs. I brought a salad, all fine and dandy. Then she asks if we could stay after for a bonfire. I agreed. My daughter was down for it. She loves roasting marshmallows. Now, this woman had a teenage daughter and a toddler son. So we went to this bonfire, and, you know, she was already kind of starting to drink her wine, and it was getting later, and my daughter was getting tired. So I went inside, put her to bed, and she asked me if I could come back out and hang out with her. We were just out in the backyard chatting, and, you know, she was drinking, and I was just kind of sitting there, and she started getting a little sloppy drunk, and you know how sometimes people are drinking, and they start really talking about their life, and they start getting really sad about things, and she was starting to get emotional, and then she hit me with the bomb. So she was married before to her daughter's father, and she said he was into crack, and I guess she was as well before, but now she only smokes weed. And she said that he apparently had hookers, and she had left him and got this call the one night stating that she was to go to the house and find these boxes where he had cut up a hooker and put all her remains into this box, and he wanted her to get it and remove it for him because I guess he had got picked up by the police and he didn't want to get caught. So that was pretty freaky. I tried to console her and say, like, I'm sorry you went through that. I guess it is possible that you could be living with someone and have no idea what they're into. I've never personally been around somebody like that has murdered anybody. That's really, really scary. I do my weekly visits with my mom. I still do. And it was one of the days that I was hanging out with my mom. It was the summer, like I said, and I had the windows open. We were playing cards. We were laughing, joking around, just having a good time. And later on in that evening, I saw on Facebook that Jane had posted, "You can't trust anybody. People have big mouths. I have no true friends." Something along those lines. So I inboxed her and said, is everything okay? You know, as a concerned friend, obviously you're looking for attention, posting something like that on social media, and I was trying to be there for her. Now she responds to me with, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're in there talking with your mom about my business and laughing about me. And I definitely wasn't. So I told her, like, I don't know what you're talking about. I definitely wasn't telling my mom anything about you. We're just joking around and stuff. I don't know where you're getting that from. So she was really pissed off and hung up on me. And then the next day she called me back and said, I'm really sorry. I get really paranoid. I basically believe you that you weren't doing that. I thought, okay, cool, everything's fine. So not too long later, my son, he had his like rec room game area in the basement, and the people who lived there before me must have spliced the cable or something to the connecting house, which would have been Jane's house, because there was a huge hole in the basement concrete wall going right through to her place. Now, my son was saying that he kept getting this really weird smell. At the time, he didn't know what weed was, but he said he was getting this really weird smell, and it was like kind of getting smoky in there, and that it was making him feel funny. I went out, and Jane was sitting on the porch, and I asked her, you know, do you smoke weed in the basement? And she looked very defensive. I said, I'm just asking because my son's saying that he smells something gross in the basement, and that it's making him feel funny. If you wouldn't mind maybe not smoking in the basement, or at least when you know my son's up, like, so he doesn't have to smell it. Well, that was the wrong thing to do. I should have known, considering she smokes with her toddler in the buggy directly in front of her, that she doesn't care to smoke outside no matter who's around. But I thought maybe because we were friends that she would be respectful of what I was asking, but she basically told me fuck off and she don't need my bullshit. And after that, the war was on. We are no longer friends. We were enemies. I tried numerous times, honestly, to say, look, we have to live next to each other. Can we just get along? But she was not down for it. So many crazy incidents happened after me saying that to her. One of them was my mom went outside to use the hose because Jane's daughter had been out on the porch with her friends, chalking up our conjoining porch and the whole sidewalk, which is fine. I don't really care, but it had been days and there had been no rain and it just wasn't coming off. So we were going to water the grass and just clean off the sidewalk and the porch. Well, for some reason, the connector for my hose on my side of the house was broken, so she went over to her side, because we had joining houses, and just went to hook up the hose into her little connector thing. Well, I guess she was staring through the window, and she came storming out, acting like a crazy person. You can't use that! Put your hose on your own side! Get the fuck out of here! And basically calling my mom on, and my mom said, like, look, your daughter was the one who made the mess here. We're just trying to clean it up. Well, that infuriated her even more. Needless to say, we were not able to use her hose connector. We ended up using the next door down. Thankfully, I had a very long hose, but she sat out there and made a point to make it very uncomfortable and difficult, you know, muttering things under her breath and just calling us bad names. At the time, I was maybe 28, and this woman was in her 40s. Another incident I had was she was constantly having her backyard parties. Like I said, she liked to drink and smoke weed, and she got along with a lot of the other neighbors, so they would all come over and chill in her backyard and smoke and hang out all hours of the night. And I never ever said anything about it, even though my daughter's bedroom and my bedroom, both of our windows were facing the backyard, so we heard everything. And a lot of times she'd be going till 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Woo! Ow! Woo! Ow! Woo! Ow! All this kind of ridiculousness, bringing all sorts of random guys over. And the one night, the other neighbor, not Jane, but the one on the opposite side, had come and asked me if I could turn off my backyard light because it was bothering her eyes. And I declined, telling her that somebody had tried to break in through my air conditioner, so I was not comfortable with turning the light off back there because then I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. There was no street lights or anything in the backyards. Well, I woke up to my light bulb missing. So because I said I wasn't turning off the light, she stole the light bulb. Another thing she started doing was standing at our joining fence and purposely blowing her pot smoke at us, so basically trying to blow it right in our faces while I was out there with my kids. I even had a friend come over with her kids, and she is totally not down for her kids smelling it or getting high off of the smoke either. I can contest that I have sat on the porch with her and her friends when they're passing around the joint, and even though I'm not smoking, I do start to feel a little funny because I don't smoke and the smoke is going in my face and you can't help but inhale a little bit. So especially for a young child, if you're choosing not to bring your child up with that around them, it's very hard to keep it away from them because it is so common now. And I mean, it's going to be legalized, and I don't judge anybody if they want to do that. That's just not something personally I want to do or really have around my kids. Pretty much everybody around there smoked pot, so I was kind of the oddball out because I didn't, and she drank a lot, which I also don't drink. So another day I came home from shopping and come to find out that my pool has been drained and removed from my backyard, and she had taken it into her backyard and refilled it up, and her kids were playing in it. Like, she stole my pool. Now, keep in mind, she got along with everybody. They all kind of joined together as if they were like a gang, and I wasn't about to call the police and try to start any drama there. I was nervous, honestly. Like, I had to live there. I didn't need any more problems, so I went out and bought a bigger pool. Well, another day, after I had bought the bigger pool, she's standing there at the fence. Michelle, just to let you know, there's a hole in your pool. Well, wasn't that convenient because the hole was on the side that had our joining fence. So clearly she stuck something through it to make a hole in my pool. Like, how friggin' immature. Like, you have now stolen my kid's pool and now you're damaging the next pool. All because I asked you if you wouldn't mind not smoking pot in the basement because my son's smelling it and it bothers him? Like, you could have just said no and we could have just went on with our merry day. It didn't have to become an all-out friggin' war. There were a few nights that I came home and she was drunk on the porch and would call me on, "Bitch, you wanna fight? I could kick your ass." And I would just get into my house, and thankfully nothing really physical did go on between us. I'm just so thankful that I finally got out of there. I'm sure there was more incidents that I'm not even thinking of, but those are just a few to let you know of my crazy neighbor stories that I've moved and I don't have any problems with my neighbors now. I'm so much happier. I'm not in the survey complex anymore. I'm on a normal street and people just kind of keep to themselves, thank God. If you have any crazy neighbor stories, I'd love to hear them. Please comment down below, and if you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching and have an awesome day.